Okay. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the discussion of the Seven Moons of Maali, Almeida by Shehan Karunatilaka. This is the book that has won the Booker for 2022. And we were very excited about reading it. So I would now request Gauravi to start the discussion. Then we will have a round of discussions, each of us discussing the book. Then I will end it with the discussion of photography and photographers. Is that okay?
Yes, you want me to start, right? Shall I?
Please. Yeah, please, but put your camera on. We don't like to look at
I'm doing that,
like,
yes. 1 minute, yeah. It's been a bit of a roller coaster kind of a day.
Yeah, I can understand.
Right?
Yeah. Tanvi says she's joining in 5 minutes, so that's brilliant. All of us are there.
Yes.
Why is the...
Okay, am I visible? I think I am. Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So yeah, first of all, this is since last year, I started this trend where, based on the last digits of the year, I'm going to read those many books per year. So last year was 2022, and I tried to read 22 novels. And this year, I'm aiming for 23, and I started with this book. So I'm glad that the Margao Book Club suggested this. This book has been today, in the afternoon, you asked me, did you like the book?
Yeah.
And I didn't have a direct yes or no answer to it, because yes, I liked the writing. It's absolutely stunning, but I wasn't sure how my emotions have formed with respect to the content of the book, whether I like it, whether I don't like it, or whether it has disturbed me to some extent, because the kind of content that is there, it's not something that we are used to experiencing every day. So in the initial first pages, it feels like the author is exaggerating a bit, but then it's because we have not lived the kind of reality that he is portraying in the book. So currently, my, like, a very shallow opinion of the book is it's a little too dark for my comfort level, and the kind of content that is explored in the book. I think the characters, let's start with Maali. I think, and anybody can maybe agree or disagree with me. I think the book, after the first 5 or 6 pages, I could clearly form a connection sort of with the Book Thief. I don't know how many of you have read The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, but the whole that's one of the first books where death is sort of personified, and you get this very stark and strong image of death. So that was my first reaction to the book, that it strongly resonates of the kind of sentiments or the kind of ambience that Zusak was trying to create. I could find similar vibes in this book, and perhaps maybe y'all could also share whether y'all feel the same or not. With respect to the characters in the book, I think the author has portrayed them excellently. You get a very strong not relatability as such, but you can sort of paint the picture in front of your eyes quite vividly, especially with respect to Maali. And it's not, you can't call him a clear cut protagonist, because he's not exactly a moral hero or someone who's fought for the good, or someone who's always taken a, like a typical good side. He's introduced to you as a person with all his flaws, or his glories, or the good side of his character, or whatever. And you get an insight into his psyche, which you wonder whether there is some sort of uh, autobiographical link somewhere between the author and Maali at some point in time. I've not had the time to read about the author's life, so I don't have an answer to that question. But the deep insight that you get into his thinking, Maali's thinking, at some point you start wondering whether there are some links between, reality and what he has portrayed Maali as. So, yeah. Would anyone like to add to this or maybe contradict me to some extent?
Tanvi, would you like to go? Tanvi, please unmute. Hi. Hi again.
Hi, yeah, hi again. Sorry, I joined a bit late because I'm on
Problem.
my
Please
way, as
start.
you can see, to another place. So I may leave the meeting, after some time. But I just wanted to be here because it's the first meeting of the yes. But let me start with a confession that I've not completed reading the book, but I
Fine.
think it's one of the best choices for because I'm really enjoying reading the book in spite of the kind of dark elements and dark element it creates for you. I would rather think about that. I didn't
You're breaking
while
up.
reading, just made
Yeah.
some points.
Mm, you're breaking up a little bit. We've lost you. Tanvi?
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I just lost my connection. Sorry for that. Sorry for that glitch. Okay, so I felt that the author is quite straight to the point about a lot of things. He doesn't like to mince with the words. And one thing I felt, which was very sort of, I don't know whether to call it a paradox, even though it's the story of the dead, someone who's dead, yet it is so lively. There are so many things which are happening in this present as well as the past of Maali Almeida that is narrated. There are so many things in the every sentence. It's so lively. Uh, and there are certain intertexts like the notes, etc., which makes it very interesting. Initially, when I started reading the book, I was a little confused because couldn't get the premise exactly. But yet, I felt like reading it because it kind of creates that curiosity. Uh, Set up the whole environment is so chaotic, so dystopian. Um, and even though it is an imaginary world, I would totally agree with what Gauravi said, that you also tend to feel that could this be sort of autobiographical? And and especially the background of war that the author has taken, uh, and it's not an easy topic to deal with, especially the two major themes as I see in the novel are war and death. I don't think you can really joke about these things in normal life. But the way he has used his dark humor, I think me and Gauravi were just talking about it the other day, that, just in between, you just feel like laughing at certain things, and at the same feel like crying at the same thing that he's describing. And I think something I really appreciated about the narrative technique that the author has used. Also, I'm a huge fan of sarcasm. I personally use so much in my life. So I really liked sarcasm has been used to comment on the brutal mentality of human beings. So ultimately, I think it boils down to that, where he's trying to show that all these, wars and the brutalities which take place during the war, like the Sri Lankan war, especially the photographic images that he talks about, the Mali's photographs, and how very in what I must say, ultimate photographer. He's supposed to do that. So, but the description of those images is just so heart wrenching. If I am correct, correct me if I'm wrong. There's one image about a child, a child holding 8-year-old girl holding her younger brother or sister. There's one image that you get to think about that image, and it's very vivid the way it's described. You can actually think about these images, read about them. Also, I think this is the second version of the book because I read would be very interesting, because it's very interesting how author has used the Sri Lankan folklore, or the images and motives from the local and indigenous cultures, to sort of talk about the philosophy that he wants people to know is extremely impressive. And there are some places in the novel which are very dreamlike. It's as if the writer is describing a dream, yet thinking about real issues like human killings, genocide, and war. That's something, again, I find it very paradoxical, yet it is very, very impressive and impactful. And I look forward to complete the book. These are the only comments that I have, because I've just finished some part of the book, but I would love to finish the book and listen to what others have to say about.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'd like to also comment on the use of photography in the book. There are lots of theoretical books written on uses of photography in society, particularly by Suzanne Sontag and Roland Barthes, Arjun Appadurai, and a whole lot of others after that, who look at the theory of photography, the camera as a tool. Okay, and I think the author has used that to quite good effect. I mean, it's almost like a gun. The camera is often referred to as having a very invasive kind of presence in society. If you look at how, for example, Princess Diana would always stop the paparazzi. It was so invasive when it came to her children, when it came to her own life. The very act, how you use a camera, you shoot a photograph, you point a camera at somebody. So everything that goes with a rifle also goes with the camera. So I think looking at the Sri Lankan war in the eyes of a photographer is particularly important, because he takes home, he kind of drives home that very essential point of shooting pointless killings, deaths. And as much as he records the death, there are cameras in action that shoot people down, and he shoots the death. So, there is this kind of a build-up. Also, what I have looked at earlier was two films. One was called Camille. It was the 2022 film about a filmmaker in a Central African Republic who ultimately dies in war. And there's also another one of Marie Colvin, who was a photographer for the London Times, and she also died in Syria, but she lost one eye in the Sri Lankan War of 83. So looking at the role of a photographer, it may sound a very romantic career to begin with, but it's the most dastardly of careers, shooting in war, because you do not know what are the choices you have to make. I met a series of photographers who had come from Iraq, very often where there are bombings. So they do not know what is the choice they have to make, whether they have to save a life or they have to shoot that and record the event of that death. So it's a choice which is not easy for a person to make, because here somebody is dying and the choice is either to do your work or to be a humanist, So that particular role is brought out well. But I was a little disturbed, like Gauri said, with the amount of use of the sexual metaphors. He's sleeping with everyone, every boy, every man, every Maali is sleeping with everyone. He is kind of touching everyone, feeling everyone, giving them the vibes. I didn't understand for the life of me what was that. Was the use of that particular attitude or behavior, was it used to portray something else, Or was it just like that? I mean, the fellow who develops his photographs, he has a lover, and then he's taking that politician to the dark room. He's feeling up all the guys um, in the gambling place where he goes to, and several other persons besides. Every relationship is also has a subtext to it, and it's a sexual subtext. Everyone he meets, he's kind of filling up. He has a lover, but he goes somewhere and deliberately, just to prove something, he has a affair with him. So I just couldn't understand that. So I was wondering whether the role of the camera itself is very invasive, whether the author was using that in order to portray how a cameraman works, how a photographer works, how his life choice of career is defined in those terms, and now with social media and with modern camera techniques and all, it has come into our life also. We know how it happens in our society, how false news is created and so on. That's besides the point, but basically I'm emphasizing on the role of the camera. And after he dies, it's interesting, the habit is so instant. He takes up his camera and it's all muddied. He cannot shoot photographs. But the other thing is, when Rani is talking to him, he's telling her, "You used my photographs, you did not acknowledge them." You see, one is the killing, but the other thing is to get a credit for a photograph of a death that you have shot. So all those little...
Could I...
Yeah, those nuances
Yeah,
is so well. Yeah. Yeah,
can I just add to this part about sexual references? I was just thinking about it today. That how the whole issue of queer personality, being in 80s, because the setup is of the 80s, right? And in an Asian country. So probably I was just thinking whether it is to show that, to not to create any sort of sympathy towards these homosexual lovers, or to normalize that even they can cheat, or even they can be like any other heterosexual relationship. I don't know. I was confused about that, about the whole Maali being so not so loyal in terms of relationship. So I was just thinking about that, whether it is some sort of representation of the LGBTQ community, to sort of show it in a way how other relationships are also shown in the novel, or any other novels for that matter.
See, Sri Lanka has been a capital for gay sex for a long time. And even though Maali admits he's a closet gay, he's quite open, and everybody calls him Ponya. Even little boys know from his gestures, from the way he behaves, that he's gay, and they have no problems with it. So I think in Sri Lanka is a little bit more open, though he comes out across as a gay. Then that's what I wanted to say openly. And these I think the references that are made to photography, the way it works in society, and in everywhere you find that he's playing a double role. Whichever group is plotting, he's an embedded photographer. So in that sense, his role as a photographer is very dual. While he's shooting dead bodies, he is also watching the action unfold. You see? So all throughout that, you see his role when he's alive, it's like that. But what I really liked was that here was a dead person walking, freely operating in space, going everywhere he's been before, and there are no compunctions. So that way, he's free to express himself. He is free to use language, foul language, use the kind of darkest, gloomiest language, and get away with it, because there is no censoring. There is no censoring because he's been through the sewers of the lake. His body has been bagged up and put in a room. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, And the other thing that I observed is that there is a crowman character who gets in touch with the dead. Okay. Also, the use of crows was there in the last book that we read by Gitanjali Shri. That whole scene that we played out, the sari episode, and there were crows sitting and taking lessons from older crows, and kind of forming a narrative on human society and stuff like that. So I found that very interesting. So maybe now we can throw it open to Brian, Olinda, Marion, Aruna, and others. Please tell us about the book.
Thank you, Savia, and thank you, Tanvi and Gauravi, for those very enlightening comments. And I was enjoying listening to all of them. And a few thoughts passed through my mind, which I'd like to share. Yes, darkness makes us uneasy, but the world is very dark. I don't have to take names of countries. I don't have to take names of people. And I may say it's getting even darker. What I liked about the novel is the dexterity with which the author has managed to introduce a form which is so audacious, where he gets to say what he wants and maybe even avoid censorship, though he's very, to the point in some places. So I think this is a liberating device, and darkness is not going to go away. The second thing is about, the goriness with which he describes things. There is, the novel is so layered that though he is describing the palace, which is a torture chamber, you know that horrible things are going on there. And I want to so appreciate your lovely artwork, Savia. I want to ask you to take us through those images. And I notice a few panels are empty at the moment.
They're not yet done. I didn't have
Yes, but this is so special that you are inspired to do artwork on a novel that you've read. I think I've spoken about this before.
Yeah,
You have this penchant of making an image come alive. That image of that that darkness. That's also dark, actually. That bird over there, that monster over there.
Yeah,
is there. Yeah. So thank you, because he almost makes the unmentionable palatable.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say. Coming to his homosexuality, I'm not sure how homosexuals behave, but I just want to share the point that point when I was in Delhi, I think maybe 20 years back, and there was this very gory case of a person named Pushkin. I don't know whether you remember.
No.
His name was Pushkin. And he stayed pretty close to me. I was in Sheikh Sarai, he was in GK. GK1 is, the top shots live in Delhi.
Mhm.
And this person was actually stabbed, I think, 27 times.
Oh, God.
The point I'm trying to make is that it emerged later that he was a homosexual, that the crimes of homosexuals are much more gory than heterosexual relationships. That's what I've seen. And it leads me to the poem which I wrote called August 15th, because on August 15th of that year, I'm not sure which year, I'll post it on the group or post a poem on the group. 3 people died for nothing. We see it as nothing. So my poem was just 3 words: Pushkin, Nafisa Ali, who committed suicide, and Dhananjay, who was hanged, constantly admitting that I have not raped this girl in Calcutta. So I think futility is a word that we need to include in this conversation. And at the end of the day, everything is so futile. It's a multi-layered book, multi-texted, and it's very difficult to find one dominant theme. And that's what makes it so rich. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really nice.
Thank you.
Olinda, would you like to go for it? Or Aruna, Marion?
Okay.
I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, go on, Marion.
okay, thank you. Actually, I'm sharing Brian's opinion. First, I found it quite difficult to come inside the story. And I was wondering, what is this with the ghosts and so on? This was a very strange topic for me. But as the book or the story continues, I really felt it very interesting how the different perspectives from different people reveals the real story behind it. And it had for me something from a criminal story, which it was also. And this was quite interesting for me. And I also liked the political, the information about the political situation, and also that he didn't took one side. He was as a photographer, he was working for everyone, and he realized that every side committed the crimes, and this was for me the most important point from the book. You can say that really nobody was for the people. Everybody had his own interest and was ready to kill people for nothing. Also according to me, for nothing. And I was a little bit wondering, because the exposition of his pigs, actually I thought this would be more effect, but actually it was not really a big effect. So this was a little bit sad. And actually the whole book through, I was thinking, okay, he was really killed because of his because of some political reasons, and in the end it came out that it was a very personal reason actually. And this was quite surprising for me in the end. And sometimes I found it a little bit boring when it was too much in the ghost side. Then I thought, oh, some things maybe I don't get properly, or I didn't get properly. But when it comes to the fact side, then I liked it very much. And I liked also, as you already know from me, I like the character which are living out of the society rules. And this I like very much in this character also.
Linda, Aruna?
Savia,
Yeah.
can I just make it a little bit interactive with you?
Yeah, sure.
Instead of summarizing it. For me, I am 63 years old. So for me, the book was a repetition about the darkness we read in several books. So many war books we have read by now. So the darkness, as Brian says, it is going to continue. It has always been there. But he was a character where you enjoyed being with him in the journey, just keeping us lively and taking us. I like the ghost aspect of it as well. Although Marian just said she didn't like that side, I found that was a liberating space where he could do and say what he wants to say. Like we are so much hard pressed, we don't say what we want to say. So he found a medium to communicate to us. But the last chapter I didn't understand, Savia. Can you throw some light on it? which is called the light.
Yeah, I think he did not want to end in that darkness. So he kind of looks at that karmic cycle. Am I correct, Brian? Where it begins all over again. That whole
Because he
journey of
jumps,
life. Yeah,
right? He jumps again.
yeah, he jumps again. So,
First,
no matter how dark life is, negative life is, in fact, in one of his interviews, he says that Sri Lankans, for all what we have been through, are not really dark people. They are light people. They are happy people. They are lively people. And don't get it from my novels that we are dark, gloomy beings. We are not. And so I think that whole thing he particularly brought in to show a kind of karmic thing, that though he goes through these 7 dark moons, again there is there are 7 cycles.
yeah.
You're born 7 times before you escape your karmic this thing according to Hinduism. So I think that is what he explores, and again Maali gets into the cycle of life again. I think that is
So
what.
can you see, did you notice some kind of forgiveness in his, there is no vengeance. I see more of forgiveness in this character. Because when he meets the ghost, when his lover's dad, he meets him there, he's sorry, he just says it's okay. I mean, he was murdered by him, but
Yeah.
he kind of forgives all these things which happened while he was on earth.
But
And
there's no choice, is there? He just wants to explore how it happened. And he actually leaves a note for Didi, which the father gets, because they are both, I think, yeah.
that
And
was
then, yeah, that was the thing. Because when he's in the gallery doing some things with that boy, and suddenly he sees the racket and he thinks Didi has come, and it's
Bad guy.
actually the father. And
And
then kind of,
I thought it was his lover himself.
yeah, even till the last minute, that's
Yeah.
an illusion he creates very well. You think it's Didi. Yeah. And actually it's not. But all through also, I mean, even if Didi had come at that point, he would have done the same thing, because all through their relationship together, Didi constantly tells him that I don't want you to do these things,
I
anyone else. So there is a kind of jealousy which is flaming hot all the while, even in their relationship. But the reasons why the father does it is for other reasons, because I think his son is everything. He doesn't have a wife, and then he sees this downward path that he takes, and he doesn't particularly like Maali, though he can't get rid of him out from his life, but he doesn't particularly like Maali. And
actually he wanted him to be kidnapped, isn't it?
yeah.
Wanted him to be kidnapped and disappeared, but then it ended a different way.
Yeah.
But the book narrative, has
Yeah.
it had to reside on the homosexual element of it? And as Brian said, the anger and jealousy among these people,
Yeah.
is terrible. So the book, while we focus on the war and all these elements of war, but it is the homosexuality which is
An overriding
yes,
kind of preoccupation.
yes, yeah.
I guess it also has an element of invasiveness, very much like war. Like I almost felt that, like Brian described that palace of torture.
Torture,
If
yes.
you have been to certain back streets of London, you have the abattoirs. And what they do is they hang out entire cattle that have been skinned. They're hung for people to buy, so they just cut off bits and then they sell them. I mean, the scene was, first thing what struck me, oh my God, this is an abattoir, where you just hang up bodies and just do what you want with them. They are like dripping blood, they are dripping emotions, they are dripping like, whatever life juices, and yet nobody cares, and this whole is that whole thing is business of death, Like I almost like to call, Maali Dr. Death, because he's roaming around with these cyanide things,
Yes, all
Yeah,
the time.
and yeah, when he sees those three characters, particularly at one point of time, there's a dog, there's a mother, and there's a man. And then
That's right.
after years, kind of this thing, he just gives them those so that he can get rid of their pain. So everything is so matter of fact, Everything is so matter of fact, whether it is like in the sexual alley, or it is in the death alley, or it is in the war alley, and even the thing of transactions. Yeah, there are lots of transactions happening between Israeli arms dealers and local bosses, whether it is the LTT or it is the other side. And they are constantly sitting at tables in groups of three and giving arms, taking money, exchanging favors. So it's not really just one world. There are several, like Brian said, there are several layers and subtexts to this entire operation that is going on. And unfolding against that operation is this love affair, is this trio that is kind of operating in a very happy little nest where Didi's cousin sister, no? Didi's,
Yeah.
what's her, Jovi?
Ducky.
Yeah, Ducky is there. She doesn't know whether she is straight or whether she is lesbian, or she doesn't, Didi's father is constantly making advances at her. She doesn't like, all that is happening. And they are constantly together. She doesn't know that Didi is in a relationship with Maali. That kind of tangle is going on. So while at some point of time, it offers you a reprieve from the death, there are also these other things, very traditional things happening, which are also brought into that sordid theater of war. Like, for example, there is that crowman. He's
Oh, yeah.
constantly connecting with the oracles and
know.
finding. And I found that particular episode very funny. There is this slightly fat-looking woman, ugly woman, who comes with a lover. She wants to know where her father has kept all the family jewelry
Jewelry.
dates
Hello.
back to 300 years. And then Maali is dead, so he can kind of gauge. He's also listening to the conversation. And there's one particular book of jurisprudence. There are 48 books and there are 49. So he finds that the whole book is carved and inside are the jewels. And then this woman with her lover comes to find out where the jewels are, and all the books are falling on top of each other, and she doesn't realize it. So there are these little things. Then also the creation of the character of his mother, that whole relationship unfolding is very interesting. And also the hierarchies of Sri Lankan society are very interesting. Like they tell you that his mother is Burger. She's half, European, half, half Burger, I think is half Berger, half European, half European and half Sinhalese. And then you have her father is Tamilian, but her husband is full Sinhalese. And that is what saves Maali, actually. Because he says if he was a Tamilian, he would have been done away long ago. But the fact that his Sinhalese father gives him the surname, that is what stands him in good stead. And then this whole thing of, building of the photographs. They are being mailed, the negatives, they are being mailed to a sister, they are being mailed to that. You find international organizations are complicit in the whole war drama that is going on. So that was like, so he's not spared anybody. He's not spared the Sinhalese. He's not spared the Tamilian LTT chaps. He's not spared international organizations that are making the quick bucks in this. So it's a very open book in that sense.
So let's talk about the Booker judges. So what kind of message do you think they want to convey to the world? They wanted the focus on the civil wars in countries, or why they gave, I mean, the other 5 books were quite good, which were there, the contestants for the Booker. So if you have read the synopsis of the other books and you look, this book came as a big surprise for the international audience because they didn't expect this one to win.
See, I haven't read the other books, but I
Okay.
found that it had a narrative which was quite compelling. And, you know, as a writer, the kind of twists and turns that he takes, the kind of characters that he develops. Like, for example, what I was very impressed by is the way he looks at that lake. Okay.
Oh, the Berry Lake.
Yeah, the Perry, yeah. And he says, you know, it
Pressure.
looked like, you know, it smells so bad
Yes.
that it looks like a big, ugly deity has sat over it, has, you know,
Yes.
done his job, and he has not flushed it. So it's smelling like an unflushed, you know, toilet.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those descriptions to something, if you go on the net and if you look at Bera Lake, it's such a thing of beauty, you know, in those tourist photographs. So
Mhm.
what he has done is he's kind of inverted all the pictures and
Mhm.
given you a ugly, you know, distorted picture. It's yours
Mhm.
to take and yours to this thing. In fact, when I was doing the illustration, I was playing with the colors of the Sri Lankan flag, and I found that the impact was
Yeah.
so good, you know, that I
Yeah.
used Indian red for creation of that photographer in the center. And,
Mhm.
you know, trying to work on particularly that whole idea of a camera being invasive, whether it was shooting, doing wartime photography, or
I
whether it was.
earthy colors for both the characters, the earthy red.
Yeah, I use earthy red because orange and sienna, burnt sienna are two colors that are there on their flag. And besides that is a little bit of orange and a little bit of green. Those are the
He,
colors
he
on the
talks
Sri
about
Lankan
the flag as well, and he questions why there is the lion on the
lion. Yes, exactly. Talks about
and
the pangolin and other things.
the most appropriate
Yeah,
one. It was so
yeah.
funny, isn't it? It just the pangolin is a very strange creature. The way
Strange and very peaceful, if you ask me. Very
uh,
peaceful, the way it rolls up and, you know, kind of
they're
self-protective. It's never offensive, it's always defensive.
yeah, and it
It's a
just
very defensive animal, if you see. When you
yeah.
try to touch it, or when you try to this thing, it just rolls up into a ball. So
It's,
anyone would like to make any other observations? I think we've got a very small, cozy setup today. And Aruna, you haven't spoken. Come on.
Hear me?
Yeah, I
Can you
can.
hear me? Okay. So I have not finished reading the book. I still have some 2 moons to go.
Mm-hmm.
When I picked up and I started, I felt that this was so much of politics, and you know, it was like too many organizations, the Tamil Tigers, the LTT, everybody was, you know, dragged into it. So it was just not my type of reading. But then I liked the way he you know, described a lot of things with a lot of humor. I like some things like, you know, he says that just because you don't have a nose, you're not excused of the stench. You know.
Yeah.
So he has, you know, there was some really funny things, and I like the way he goes through the whole story and he says you to him. It's
Yeah.
like narrating the story in such a lovely way.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I think I like that part where he's taken the ghost, like he is a ghost and he's talking to himself, but he's like saying it's you. It's like he's referring to you. So that
And
was
I think, yeah, you're right. There's that other thing where they have to go to the 42nd chamber right in the beginning to get their ears checked. I was later on finding out what is the connection between the ear and, you know, the
the
Sri
ear.
Lankan Sinhalese, you know. Then I read up that they have the highest ear infections. And
Oh,
the ear is an organ which is related to stability and human stability, like, you know, and so it has a strong connection to the war and to the ear infection prevalence in that society. So therefore he plays with that also. Again and again he's referring to the ears. ear infections. Can you hear this? Can you hear this? Is going on all through the book. So anyway, one of the drawings that I did was of the souls going up to the 42nd floor. He says they have a lift shaft and all the souls are going up like, you know, bubbles in water, if you remember. That was the thing that came in the first moon. So I found that very interesting. And there are lots of interesting, for example, that image of Mahakali.
Yes.
Another very stunning image, which to imagine is quite something, you know. And Maali riding Mahakali is also a very strong image in the book. Yes, Aruna.
So that's, I think I'll finish the book now. I tendered just because I wanted to know what you all felt about the book. Because I felt it was very, you know, it's like too much of bodies dumped in the lake. Every chapter had so much of that.
Yeah. Also, the kind of narrative, no, without emotions. There are two books, Damon Galgot's book and this book, which I found were in a similar vein, if you know
Yes.
what I mean. That book also, it didn't catch
Yeah.
my spirit, you know. It didn't catch my spirit. I may say that, you know, the style of writing, the narrative power is very compelling and all, but it didn't catch my spirit. Like I wouldn't write in that style. For me, I probably haven't been to a war zone. I haven't, you know, lived in those do or die situations. So that could be the reason why that kind of narration flows, you know, because the situation itself is like that. But there were these little
If I
touches.
can just add to it,
Yeah.
someone mentioned that, you know, he seems like he's very forgiving.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it is forgiving or whether he just appears to be a little indifferent to his own death or to all the other deaths that are happening around him. Because it seems like like you said, his writing style is so detached. It's like the photography element is there in the narrative style as well. It's like we are watching a documentary instead of
Like
getting like a
journalism.
subjective
Yeah.
view of the whole thing. You don't get that subjective feeling that you usually have in fiction. You get like a very documentary kind of present. Even the fact that he switches from one character to the other, one incident to the other, the switches are so much that it's as good as like presenting a documentary in front of your eyes. You don't get this feel that he's the author, and by he I mean the author as well, as attached or has some sort of a link to the characters per se, or some sentiments for the character per se, not link, I would say sentiments for the characters. And like you mentioned, there's that whole dialogue that he has with a lady who's been burnt alive,
Yeah.
and she says that you were one of my killers, because so he says, I did not kill you, and then she says, you were just standing there with your camera, and then he says, believe me, that's the best I could do, that's my share to, like, helping you out. I couldn't have done anything more than that. So all this discussion about homosexuality that we were having, I was wondering whether he has this attitude of moving from one person to the other and not sort of grounding himself anywhere, because that's what his life as a photographer has been. Because perhaps that attachment is not there in any angle of his life. It may not be a representation of homosexuality as such. Even if he was a heterosexual, perhaps he would have the same attitude towards his lovers, because that's the kind of feeling we get through in all the other aspects of his life as well, and not just his love life per se.
Yeah, that's spot on, because even afterwards, after his death, he's not bothered about, you know, maybe connecting with Didi, with whom you wanted to live and go and live in the States. He just wants an exhibition of his photographs to be put up. And he is in depth directing the movement of those photographs, you know, those 5 envelopes that he has, Queen of Spades and Ace of Diamonds and whatever, those 5 envelopes which in the photographs are located, the negatives are located. And the entire operations is conducted to be able to get those photographs, get those negatives to be printed and put up as a photo exhibition. And after that, he seems to be kind of, he seems to have achieved his life, mission. He's quite of quiescent after that. So I'm not able to understand, but maybe that's the hallmark of a writer in the creation of a character, where he creates this kind of character who has no attachment only to his work, to his
Can I say something?
yeah, please.
I don't think it surprises me that Maali is so frantic that his photos will not be displayed. I think that is the driving force of the entire novel, and it seems to be just moving out of his hands. So he needs to arrest it because that's his destiny. That's what actually pushes the novel, and that is the thrust of the novel.
The driving force, okay.
Yeah. And throughout the novel, particularly in the earlier pages, I couldn't help but think about Night Shyamalan's movie Sixth Sense, because you always have these dead bodies hanging all over, and at any given moment of time, their stories become yours. And by extension of that line of thinking, Maali and the author do not allow you to forget what happened in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Just because the Vieira Lake looks beautiful doesn't mean that there is nothing rotting in the state of Denmark. And that is the great, I think, achievement of this novel, because you cannot put it by and say the IPKF did not exist, the LTT did not exist, and the Sri Lankan did not exist. This is where literature brings social change. This is where we can go one step forward, and he's done it with so much of creativity, and it can only be described as dazzling.
Yeah.
Thank you, MBC, for choosing this book.
Okay. The other thing is also, you're right, Brian, because he keeps saying, photographs can bring down governments.
Yes.
This is that kind of material. It can destabilize the government. It can condemn certain people. And actually, not only he, but the international group, the local politicos are also under that, after that packet. Where are they? Where are the photographs? And true, if you see certain photographs, the photographs of a general killing that general in Vietnam, and that napalm girl, these are photographs that have created world history. And by their very starkness of those images, the world over, even though you have not experienced that kind of napalm attack, you have been stricken by the horrors of war and have wanted to stop it. So in that sense, I think those 5 packets can have that kind of compelling material. And maybe all the other embellishments that he gives it are a way of cutting down on that preoccupation and that very compelling thing of the sordidness of war, sordidness of death, which the novel churns out continuously. But I must say, I enjoyed the book, though I wouldn't write a book like that. I enjoyed the book, and it's got a narrative power which you cannot deny. Okay, are we anywhere close to 7:27? We started at 6:30, 7:30 we stopped. Just 3 minutes to Rama. So let's say cheers to that. And it's a lovely book, and may we get the privilege of enjoying some more books. I'm at my very low ebb now. So I'm going to say, can Olinda and Brian handle the next book? You just choose the book. Brian, you are the professor. You choose the book.
Brian,
Yeah.
Brian.
I'm listening.
Yeah, please. And you do, you conduct the session for the next book. Yeah, will you do that?
When should it be? I mean, in how much time?
End of the month, end of February. Tuesday,
February.
Saturday, preferably. And
Okay.
just tell us the book in advance. We'll buy it and we'll read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that book, Surja's Clan. I wonder if there's much to it. It seems
Okay.
interesting, but it's also this book coming from not Pakistan, Bangladesh. So I
Okay.
thought it would be nice to look at, but you decide. The choice is yours. Huh? And
Okay.
you let us know by the 5th so that we can start buying and reading the books. So thank you very much, everyone. Gauravi,
Also consider this book, maybe.
which one is this?
Saved books.
Because it's The Cat Who Saved Books by I can't pronounce the author's name, but I've just started it. This is like the next book. It was gifted to me by a friend, and it seems very interesting. So maybe you can consider the book.
The month
Yeah.
after that. First, let us give
Thank
Brian this thing. And after that, we'll take on this. Okay, Gauravi? Thanks.
Yes,
Aruna,
sure, anytime.
Brian, yeah. And Olinda, thank you. Bye-bye. Yes.
Savia,
Brian.
Yeah.
Savia, one question. Are we only doing novels or are we thinking about poetry collections?
Poetry, not everyone gets into it.
Okay.
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 But if there's something, we are not literature people, all of us. And once in a way, we come up with something very brainy, but otherwise, we are just
But where are the
truly
people?
ordinary citizens.
I
Huh?
hope where are the literature people? There are a lot of literature
No,
people.
they've just been running away. Yeah, what to do?
Mm, mm.
They have just been avoiding us, and but it's okay.
It's
So,
all right.
yeah, this actually, December, January is a heavy month.
It is. It is.
Yeah, so let's just
I
go
think
with the flow.
you
Yeah,
can speed up monsoon time. You can, can gather pace at that time.
okay. Okay, Brian, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Okay.
Olinda.
Thank you.
Bye, Marian. Bye, Aruna.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.